Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Liverpool Transfer Talk show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. A lot of rumours circulating the past 7 days with regards to potential signings for Liverpool this summer. Some familiar names, some unknown commodities as well. So what we'll do today, we will discuss some of the rumours circulating online right now and try and analyze to see if there's any truth to it, or we can kind of assess if they are the right profile for the club. So let's start with the first rumor, and no sort of surprise in terms of seeing his name linked to the club, and that is Xavi Simons. Now, the attacker joined Leipzig on loan last summer, but he made the move permanent in the January window. So seems unlikely that he'll move on. But apparently, the rumor is that Leipzig would be open to selling Xavi Simons this summer, and he's apparently open to a move as well. He's also mentioned in the past that his dream is to play for Barcelona, so maybe that's something that he still aspires to do. Uh, but in terms of his profile, he's an interesting player, naturally a attacking midfielder, but can play on the left wing or on the right wing, so will provide versatility if he was to be signed for Liverpool. In terms of his stats this season so far, he's made 29 appearances, 10 goals, and 6 assists. So 16 GA in 29 games, not too bad. Uh, the only sort of stumbling block for me about being pleased about this signing is that he will cost around 60 to 70 million pounds, which I feel like is quite a lot for a player who I don't think will be a starter. I think he'll be more of a squad player. So we're interested to see what happens. I do feel like he is a talented player, um, and will provide the quality and depth that we need in the squad. I think that's a bit of a huge sort of free for a player that may not start a lot of games. So one to look out for. Of course, he's a former teammate of Cody Gakpo, so that could be something that aligns well. Of course, Dutch connection in the club in terms of the coach and certain players in the squad as well. So one to look out for. I don't know if we will be in pursuit for him, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, this striker has been linked with a move to Liverpool in recent days, and that is Victor Osimhen. Apparently, he has a release clause of £60 million, and is expected to leave Napoli. Of course, his relationship broke down last summer with the president, and it got so bad that they ended up shipping him to Turkey because it was the only league that were able to sign him after the transfer window had closed for all the other leagues in Europe. Um, would he be the perfect signing for Liverpool? On paper, I think he would be. I think he ticks all the boxes for me in terms of what he brings on the pitch. Very tall, very strong, great technique. He's one of those players where he'll be on the shoulder, but can score goals from different types of angles. Good hold up play, and brings other players in the game as well. Can score all types of goals. I mentioned good header of the ball, good left foot, good right foot on him. Good with his pressing as well. Something that's probably a little bit sort of underrated. I think he doesn't probably get that credit. Formed a fantastic partnership with Kvaratskhelia during the days in Napoli. If we were to sign him, I think this would be regarded as a statement signing. I think it would definitely add a bit of a fear factor to our rivals in the league and, of course, Europe as well. In terms of his stats for this season, 35 appearances, 30 goals, and 7 assists. Now, some will say, look, it's the Turkish league, but look, you can only produce, what's in front of you, and he has been banging them in left, right, and centre. And in terms of his profile, 26 years of age. The only concern I would have with regards to signing Osimhen is the fact that he would be called upon to play for Nigeria in AFCON. So AFCON, of course, takes place in January every few years. So I think the next AFCON is actually taking place this coming January. So that is a bit of a slight concern because we've got Mohamed Salah in the team who'd, of course, go to play for in AFCON for Egypt. So that's two of our main attackers, away on international duty. That could have an impact on our season. And if you still have the likes of Jota in your squad, who you can't be relied upon due to being injury prone, it could present a bit of an issue for us from an attacking point of view. But other than that, I think he'd be the perfect sign. I think he'd be well equipped to handle the physicality of the Premier League. I think he would be a lethal finisher, and I think he'd be the striker that we've been missing for the last 2, 3 years. So I would say he is the ideal signing for us, and I think he's available at a very good fee of £60 million. Apparently, it's a release clause, so there won't be too much sort of negotiation with Napoli's president, so we can kind of just go straight in and discuss with the player. Apparently, there were rumors that we were in discussion to sign him in January. Apparently, as Nunes' replacement, because Nunes was very close to joining Al Nassr in January. So you know, hopefully, whatever if that was a speculation, hopefully that is a reality for this summer where Nunes does, depart and move on to a club like in Saudi or stays in Europe, and then we sign Osimhen as his replacement. When I say replacement, I'm probably in terms of squad, but he is actually an upgrade to what Nunes presents on the field. So for me, this would be the guy that I'd go for. I don't know if the club would look at the fact that because he'll be participating in AFCON, that might, affect the decision to go ahead and sign the Nigerian striker. But in terms of profile, I think he's the one that we should be looking at. Next striker is Ollie Watkins. Apparently, he has been earmarked as an alternative to Alexander Isak. Now, in terms of uh, this rumor, I don't see there being too much truth in it, if I'm being honest. I know he was very close to signing for Arsenal in the January window, and I know they're probably wishing, wow, they probably should have made that happen. Probably would have changed the outcome of the season. Who knows? But he's definitely an interesting player, a player that has improved as time has gone on, which it's quite strange to say out loud because when you're approaching 29, you're either still in your peak or you've slowed into the end of your peak, and then you're just sort of like on autopilot, just going through games and trying to have an impact in the team, and then you're not being sometimes a bit of a bit part player. Not the case for Ollie Watkins. He's been going strength to strength as the seasons have gone on, and he's pretty much the main man at Aston Villa in terms of his stats for this season: 49 appearances, 16 goals, and 13 assists. Now, in terms of what he brings onto the pitch, I think he would give us that stability and experience uh, of scoring a number of goals in the Premier League. The only concern would be his age in terms of his profile. He's 29 years of age, will be turning 30 in some course, of course, this year, but not the profile I think FSG would be looking at. And it's not like he's available at a cut price. He will still command a decent transfer fee because Aston Villa will not want to part ways with one of their star strikers. So in terms of what he brings to the table, good striker, but I don't think that is a profile that Liverpool are looking to sign this summer. Next player who I'm sure we've mentioned in the past episodes, and we'll probably mention him again this this sort of transfer summer that we're coming up with in is Rayan Cherki. Now he's being linked with a move to the Premier League. It's not just Liverpool. In Manchester United, I'll credit it to having some interest in the player, probably more so because he scored against them in the Europa League tie. Should Liverpool be in pursuit for this talented player? You guys will probably know my answer. 100% yes. We need to be in pursuit of signing Rayan Cherki. He's only available for around 20, 25 million pounds due to the financial issues at Lyon. For me, it's a no-brainer. He's a player that can play as a number 10, can play on the right wing, and can even play on the left wing if required. Because he's both-footed, it doesn't even matter what side he plays on. He's so talented. He can adapt to the position that is asked of him to play on. So for me, he would be something different in our squad that we don't have. We don't have a player that, can drive with the ball and be that creative spark for our team. We do have that in Harvey Elliott, but he hasn't shown that whenever he's been called upon. And I don't think Arne Slot has too much trust in Harvey Elliott, maybe due to his sort of lack of presence on the pitch and maybe struggles against the physical teams in the Premier League. Ryan Cherki, from what I've seen of him, that's not going to be an issue for him. Very strong on the ball, great balance. When he dribbles the door, he literally glides on the pitch. Very easy on the eye. Definitely a player that will get you off your seat because he's able to produce, fantastic tricks, and he's able to produce pass out of nothing and can score one of the goals as well. So for me, he's got the full package. Really, really hope that we are in pursuit of him. But there's still question marks in regards to, his attitude or his sort of effort on the pitch, in terms of his pressing and tracking back. I watched him a couple of times. I watched him recently against United. I didn't really see an issue in regards to his pressing or his tracking back. So I don't know if that's just, a stigma that certain North African players have in the French league. You know, he's playing for Lyon, so obviously he will probably be likened to a Nabil Fekir or Ben Arfa, who was also a winger there as well. And they tend to get that reputation. So I don't know if it's just because of, his appearance that they assume that he's lazy, or maybe it's just the style of play where, he's not so both like he's just not running around, in a headless manner. He's probably a bit more calculated, a bit more purposeful in terms of what he does on the pitch. So I'm not sure what the case is, but whenever I've seen him play, I've not really seen that as an issue. I, I feel like he'll do really well in our team. He can play as a starting number 10. If not, he can have a great impact off the bench. And I feel like he would be a great understudy for Mohamed Salah on the right wing as well. So I think he's the player we need to sign this summer. I really do. So fingers crossed, it happens for us in the window. Another player that I'm sure we're familiar with is Hugo Ekitike. He's been strongly linked with a move to Liverpool again, but apparently the rumor is that Frankfurt have slapped a price tag of 100 million to his name. Um, what do we think Liverpool will do? Because I do feel like he is one of our primary targets. I think he fits the profile that we're looking for. Young player, 22 years old. I think he'll be 23 in September. So he's at a good age. He's not quite regarded as a young player. He's had to learn his trade in League R. Was at Stade Reims, but then ended up moving to PSG. Was pretty much bought as cover for Mbappe. Didn't really get much game time, so he had to move on and try and get regular first team football, and he's managed to get that at Frankfurt, and he's shown a good level of performance this season. He's played as a lone striker at times. He's also played as part of a double attack alongside Marmoush before he made that move to Man City. So I feel like he ticks all the boxes that we need. Tall player, 6'2", I believe he is, um, but very good on the ball, very agile, quick feet, good dribbler, and got decent shot on him as well. Uh, People have likened him to like a young Isak. So, if we can't get Isak, then probably try and get the one that's going to be the next one up. So, he ticks all those boxes, and he's got that tendency of dropping deep as well and trying to be a link man. So I feel like he ticks all the boxes that we need from our sort of next number nine. In terms of his stats this season, he's played 44 times, 21 goals, 9 assists, so 30 GA in 44 games, which is quite decent to be fair. If Liverpool aren't able to sign Osimhen, who I feel like would be a statement signing for the club, I think Ekitike has to be the one that we go for. He should be regarded as our prime target. Isak would be the dream signing, but I don't think it's realistic at all. You know, it's going to be a very interesting summer because we will be selling a lot of players within the squad, players that are not even currently playing for us right now. They're out on loan, so they've probably increased their stock due to their good performances this season. So there will be a lot of money generated through player sales. So it could be where, one or two unexpected sales happen. Maybe a Harvey Elliott leaves or a Luis Diaz or Diogo Jota. So that raises the the sort of transfer kitty for us as well. So maybe you can go on and splash the cash for an Isak. But I feel like we've got to sign quite a few players in this window. Not saying that our team is, below par. I just feel like we really need to strengthen certain position in order to really compete for all competitions next season. I think that's the key for us. So If we can get that balance right, we could be having a great successful season, not just next season, but for years to come as well. So it's very interesting to see what Liverpool do. Um, Isak, I think, is unrealistic. Another player linked to us is Julian Alvarez, would be a fantastic signing on paper, but I don't see him parting ways with Atletico Madrid anytime soon. So then you have to scroll through and see who else is there. Osimhen for me would be an ideal signing. Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon, I still have question marks in terms of his adaptability to the Premier League. So I think Ekitike will be the one that ticks all the boxes. So that would be my sort of prime target after Osimhen. Um, but yeah, let's see what happens. The price tag is a bit of a concern. 100 million, they're not going to get 100 million for him. I think they'll probably come to terms with maybe around 50, 60 million pounds, which I know it's half the amount, but 100 million, there's no one paying that kind of money because he's still a bit raw. Like he's not the complete article. He will take a bit of time to get accustomed to the way Liverpool play and how the league is presented as well. So, he's not ready made, number nine right to it. I think he will be regarded as our main striker, but he will need to, take time to get used to the way we play. He'll probably have to rotate quite a bit with our second striker, whether that's Jota or another player remains to be seen. So I do like the look of Ekitike, so definitely one on the short list. It depends on who is available and who Liverpool would like to go for in the end. So let's see what happens in the coming weeks. Another player that for me is slightly unknown, and his name is Jesus Rodriguez. Now he is a player from Real Betis. He's been linked with a move to Liverpool as well as a couple other teams in the Premier League. Is he the right profile for Liverpool? Well, he's a 19-year-old left winger. Seen a couple clips of him. Looks a decent player. Quite stocky for his age in terms of his build. Uh, Not the quickest on the ball, but does present you know a different option in terms of his dribbling. He can get past a couple of players. Has a decent shot in him as well. I still feel like he's quite raw. I don't think he's anywhere near the finished article. So it remains to be seen how he develops in the next 2 or 3 years. In terms of his stats this season, 38 appearances, 4 goals, 4 assists. So not the highest of ratios in terms of output there. So for me, not the player that I'd look for. Even if Liverpool were to sell Luis Diaz, you'd probably assume Liverpool would go for sort of a young profile to be an understudy for Gakpo, or maybe someone that overtakes him, depending on availability of certain players. But I don't think this would be the player that we'd go for, if I'm being honest. I think there's probably better options out there. But one a name to look out for, I guess, because he has been linked with a move to other clubs in the Premier League, so he could be making his way next season. Another player that which I'm sure you're familiar with is Benjamin Sesko. Now, apparently, Fabrizio Romano has suggested that Arsenal and Liverpool regard Sesko as one of their prime targets this summer, uh, probably after Isak. So both clubs are trying to sign the Swedish striker. So is Sesko the right fit for Liverpool? I'll be brutally honest. Whenever I've seen him play, and I have seen him quite a few times live for Leipzig as well as his international team. I've not been impressed. He hasn't, impressed me in his performances. Maybe I've jinxed him. I'm not sure, but um, yeah, he looks very average when I've seen him play. Great in terms of his physique and has a good sort of burst of speed about him, but still very raw in certain aspects of his game. Uh, I'd say his finishing needs to improve, but if you look at his stats, they might paint a completely different picture. This season, he's managed to play 41 times, 20 goals, 6 assists, so 26 GA in 41 games. So not too shabby for a striker that I'm, calling pretty much bang average. But I don't know. Not for me. He's not my cup of tea. But I do feel like there's interest from the club, unfortunately. Hopefully, he's not regarded as the prime target. Because I do feel like there's a few options out there before we, go down the short list. Um, he wouldn't be a huge upgrade to Nunes, if I'm being honest. I feel like they're both very raw. Um, Nunes shouldn't be as raw right now because he's mid-20s now. He's had plenty of time to develop, but his finishing, is at a certain level. It's not going to get higher than that. Sesko is still 21 years of age, so does have room to grow. Um, if we were to sign him, I'm not going to be, hugely annoyed or anything like that. I'd find it a little bit underwhelming if he was the signing that we go for to replace Darwin Núñez, because I still feel like he's not the finished article. He'll be pretty much like a project player for us. So who knows? Hopefully he moves over to North of London and signs for Arsenal. Because I don't want him to see. I don't want to see my Arsenal for. But that's just my thoughts on the striker. Now, no surprise in terms of who we've got on the screen, and that is Dean Huijsen. Now, apparently, the current rumor is that a lot of teams have been showing interest with the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United, and even Real Madrid have registered interest in the defender. And the rumor is that Huijsen actually prefers a move to Liverpool rather than Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United. I haven't listed Real Madrid in that sentence there because I think if there was genuine interest from Real Madrid, I think that would be his favorable club to join, only due to the fact that he's a Spanish international now. He's broken into the national team, so it would make sense for him to play for one of the best teams in the country. And it's Real Madrid, so they are going to always have that appeal to Spanish players, but also players all over the world. Um, but if he was to remain in the Premier League, I think Liverpool would be regarded as his favorite destination. Very interesting player in terms of what he brings to the table. 6 foot 4, 6 foot 5, I believe he is. Uh, 2-footed, so can literally execute very well with his left and with his right foot as well. Um, Good reading of the game, very technical in terms of his passing ability. Release clause of £50 million, so no negotiation is required with his current club, which is Bournemouth. I think he's top of our sort of short list for centre back. I think we've got strong interest in the player. Whether he joins the club, I can't say with 100% that he will. But if he wants to remain in the Premier League, then I think Liverpool will be the most likely destination. Um, I think it'd be a good signing. Hopefully, he's not being signed to replace Konate, because I know with rumors circling that Konate is not going to sign a contract extension. Um, we won't know until that becomes official. But I do believe Huijsen would be a fantastic signing for Liverpool and could be a top defender in years to come. So this is definitely one to watch out for. So hopefully, you know, we can make this happen in the coming weeks. Now, a player that's been linked with the club recently is Bradley Barcola. Barcola apparently had stalled on contract negotiations, and it appears that he will not be signing an extension with PSG. Um, that's why he's been linked with moves away from the club, and with Liverpool being one of the names. His contract expires in 2028, so it's not like he's got 1 or 2 years. He's got still 3 years after his contract. So PSG, if they wanted to part ways with the player, will still command a huge transfer fee. So should Liverpool go all out for the rising star? Now, if Liverpool wanted to spend big on a left winger, Barcola would probably be on top of my list if I'm being brutally honest. There's of course certain players that are really good and play at a good level, with the likes of Rafael Leao and all those sort of players. But I feel like Barcola is the next one up in terms of that left wing position. Only 22 years of age. This season has been one of his best seasons to date. 50 appearances, 18 goals, 17 assists, so 35 GA in 15 games, which is quite good. Can play on the left wing, can play on the right wing. For me, if he is available and he wants to leave PSG, uh, he should be regarded as one of our, I say prime targets, but having said that, left wing is one of those weird positions because if Diaz was to vacate and leave the club, I don't think we need to spend too big on the left wing. We've got Gakpo there, who's good enough to be a starter in the team. But when you've got a player like Barcola available, for me, if Barcola was to join Liverpool, he surpasses Gakpo. Gakpo has to settle for a place on the bench. Barcola will be a starter week in, week out. That's how much I rate him, and that's how talented I believe he is. So I personally, would love to say there's some truth to rumor. I don't think there's any truth to it whatsoever. I think this is probably just agents, trying to leverage more sort of like better terms for their client in order to sign that contract extension, and that'll probably happen in the next few months. So I don't think it's a realistic target. If I was to put on the spot and suggest a name for that left wing position, he'd be the top one I'd probably present in my list. So no, unfortunately, not a realistic target, but we can dream until until then, I guess. And the final rumor today is Antoine Semenyo, who's being linked to a move to Liverpool yet again. And should Liverpool consider bid for the player? We've already in pursuit of two Bournemouth players. Can we make it a trio signing from Bournemouth? I'm not so sure. I do rate the player. I do think he's very, very talented. Very comfortable on the left wing or right wing. Has great speed. Very dynamic on the ball. Um, Good sort of dribbling skills. Has a great shot. I mean, his left foot got some power. I don't even think that's his natural foot. So he can definitely be a useful attacker for us within our squad. Can have a great impact off the bench. That can also be a starter as well. But unfortunately, his valuation is £70 million. That's the kind of fee that Bournemouth are after. For me, that's too much. That's probably the same kind of price range that Barcola would cost. I think Barcola's valued at 60 million, so he'd probably be priced away for about 80. Um, so I'd rather spend 80 on Barcola than 70 on Semenyo, if I'm being brutally honest. They're two different levels. Um, so no, if that valuation was dropped a lot lower, then I think he'd be a fantastic squad player to have. Um, Especially, if Diaz being strongly linked to a move away from the club, having Semenyo for that left wing position wouldn't actually be a bad option, in my opinion. But for 70 million, that's yeah, way above I think his valuation. I think it's too much for Antoine Semenyo. But feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. I could be completely wrong. You guys might really rate him. I do like him, but I just don't think he's worth that price. So feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.